The budget we've just seen actually sets the stage for India 25 years from now. It's the Amrit Kal budget, as is being called. Now, you are the CEO of the government's primary think tank. You've set out a whole lot of roadmaps for various aspects of government. We would like to know from you, what exactly, the short term we've discussed, the implications. What do you think are the long-term triggers from this budget which can actually take us to that 5 trillion number?
So sort of first and foremost, I think it's very important to drive private sector investment because the government debt to GDP ratio is high at about 90%, but India's private debt to GDP ratio at about 55% is very low. It's 212% for USA. The world average is 148%. And therefore, there's a huge amount of possibility for the private sector to enhance its capacity utilization, its raising of resources, and expansion. And Indian economy in the long run, if it has to grow at high rates of 9 to 10% per annum, year after year, for 3 decades or more, has to grow on the back of private sector. That is really the key. And what the budget really does is on the basis of large capex expenditure, it aims to crowd in private sector investment. And that is really the intention that private sector must come in and drive. So that's number one, to my mind. Number two is really driving exports. No country in the world post-World War II has grown for a long period without exports. And therefore, exports have grown this year. We need to sustain it over a long period of time. That's critical. The third is to make India a very, very integral part of global value chains. So across sectors, we need that India becomes a major manufacturing nation. We are able to become globally competitive, which is what the PLI schemes tend to do, make India a very, very integral part of global value chains. And lastly, to my mind, the world is changing dramatically from sunset areas of growth to sunrise areas of growth. And the budget really talks about that, but really the key is to go digital, go green. And Europe will put in border taxes by 25, 26, and therefore there's a massive opportunity to transfer from your economy and then penetrate these markets. Big, big opportunity there.
What are the key sectors you think which will drive this? I mean, you talked about exports, of course, as a broader element, but what are the key sectors? Are there particular elements in the budget, do you think, which will push the sectors in a way that we will go there faster?
So first and foremost, after the 1920 crisis in the world, after the First World War, the American economy just grew on the back of infrastructure. So I'm a great believer that infrastructure is really the key. And there's a huge need for quality infrastructure, building up that capacity to be able to drive and operate and maintain it well. So infrastructure will be really the key. But there are a whole range of new areas of growth. We've been focusing on sunset areas. We are now getting into sunrise areas. If you look at the production-linked incentive scheme, that looks at some of these areas. Mobile manufacturing, electronic, advanced chemistry cell, battery storage, network industries, that is components getting into telecom and automobile, this huge shift from combustion engine to electric vehicles. And you'd be really surprised to know that this year, actually, the world has sold more mobile. The sales of mobiles is more than the number of total value of sales of cars. So there's a huge shift taking place towards these items. We need to penetrate this global market in this, not just for the domestic market, but use the strength of the domestic market to penetrate global markets.